Here we go. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Kisleff. I serve as the chair in the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. The mission of the Fire Safe Council is to promote fire safe practices through outreach, education, and program development, and identify ways to protect the community from wildfire. We focus on the areas of Bowman, the city of Auburn, Newcastle, and Penryn. So welcome to this month's educational forum. Today our speaker is Luana Dowling. Luana is the Placer County Firewise Coordinator. Luana's topic will be Firewise Community, so we'll learn what Firewise communities are, the benefits, and how to start one. We can do question and answer during the session if things fit, or otherwise we'll have a Q&A session after the presentation. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat during the session. So with this, Luana, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rob, very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Luana Dowling, and I'm the current Placer Firewise Communities Coordinator. And what we're going to do today is the Firewise program at firewise.org has an actual tutorial on doing your risk assessment for your community and what Firewise is about. It's about a 30-minute tutorial. We're going to run through that tutorial. And then if there's a space within that tutorial where it looks like we have a bunch of questions and we need to answer them, we'll stop and answer those questions. If not, we'll answer at the end. The Firewise program right now, I think in Placer County, we have 72 Firewise communities. And as I looked this morning, we have 88 communities that are actually in the portal working through the Firewise program. So that's great. I think we're working with 150 in Placer County total. And so it's a great program. It's growing. It's being very much recognized now by the insurance communities and California statewide. So it's a great program to get into. And Rob, I think if you would like to actually start that tutorial, we can get started on that, and then we'll answer some questions afterwards.
Okay, great. The audio might be a little low, but we're doing the best we can to make sure that that this can be presented. So let's give it a try here.
Welcome to NFPA Firewise USA Community Wildfire Risk Assessment Tutorial. Click Next to begin. Welcome to NFPA Firewise USA Community Wildfire Risk Assessment Tutorial. Click Next to begin.
We'll try the other next button here.
In this tutorial, you'll hear about wildfire behavior and how to make your community less vulnerable to a wildfire event. You'll learn how to evaluate your community's strengths and vulnerabilities to wildfire, as well as use that knowledge to inform your assessment. Lastly, you will practice using a mock assessment to record and transform your observations into recommendations and an action plan. This tutorial will also guide you to additional resources that can be found on the Firewise USA website and with Firewise USA partners. While you will have the opportunity to interact with the risk assessment template here, it is recommended that you keep a separate copy for reference. You may click the assessment icon to download and print the assessment template. The navigation icon on this screen provides instructions for navigating this tutorial. There is also a tab for navigation help on the menu bar. This tutorial should take about 30 minutes to complete. Click Next. When you have completed this tutorial, you should be able to identify environmental features that impact ignition resistance in a wildfire. Record findings in the Firewise USA Community Wildfire Risk Assessment template using environmental observations. And use recorded findings to draft a multi-year action plan to reduce site risk from wildfire. Every year, devastating wildfires burn across the United States. To date, nearly 45 million homes are next to or intermingle with wildlands, and more than 72,000 U.S. communities are at risk. Descriptions of these events, such as firestorms and explosions, might lead you to believe there is little a community can do to prepare, except get out of the way if a wildfire hits your neighborhood. This is a misconception. These fires will continue to happen. However, there are many things you can do to help protect your home and neighborhood, as well as your family's safety. There are several steps to becoming recognized as a Firewise USA site, all of which extend directly from the risk assessment. You first organize by creating a board or committee of volunteers to represent your community. These volunteers should include interested homeowners and partners, such as local forestry agencies or the fire department. Once you have completed this step, you plan by defining the boundaries of your site and obtaining a wildfire risk assessment. You and your board will use the findings from the risk assessment to create a multi-year action plan designed to bolster your community's fire resistance and improve upon its vulnerabilities. Once you have completed all of these steps, you can then apply for recognition through the Firewise USA portal. The assessment helps you focus on the strengths and vulnerabilities of your community against wildfire. The recommendations from your completed assessment will be the board or committee's primary tool in determining the task priorities within your site. Before looking at the assessment more closely, let's first practice identifying community strengths and vulnerabilities to wildfire, a key skill to assessing your own community. The 1993 Laguna Fire in Southern California was a wildfire that entered a densely developed area. Winds blew from a northwest wooded area and devastated many homes in the neighborhood. In this image, notice the row after row of destroyed homes, except one. However, upon closer inspection, green trees and shrubs also remained unconsumed and were located right next to the destroyed homes. Why did this house and vegetation survive? This event is not an isolated one. While all neighborhoods look different, the science is the same. Studies show that multiple environmental conditions predict the likelihood of a house to burn, such as vegetative conditions, topography, and housing density. Further research in these areas also dispel the myth that fires spread through neighborhoods like a wall of flame. In reality, fire only spreads from ignition to ignition, locations along its path that meet the requirements for combustion. This type of fire spread occurs through wind-driven embers and surface fires. Wildfire behavior patterns are driven by the combination of environmental conditions, fire spread, and weather. You can use this knowledge to empower yourself and your board with the ability to mitigate and prevent fire spread throughout your community. Embers and surface fires can cause many ignitions over a wide area and can originate from a fire as far as a mile away. Long after the wildfire has ceased intense burning near the community, burning homes and vegetation still generate embers that continue to spread within the residential area. However, home characteristics in an area surrounding the home within 100 to 200 feet, or 30.5 to 61 meters, determines the likelihood for ignition. This area is called the Home Ignition Zone, or HIZ. Before you complete your assessment, you must adopt a new awareness of the fire-resistant strengths and flammable vulnerabilities of the home ignition zones in your community. There are 3 zones within the HIZ to consider. The immediate zone, 0 to 5 feet or 0 to 1.5 meters from the house. The intermediate zone, 5 to 30 feet or 1.5 to 9.1 meters from the house. And the extended zone, 30 to 100 feet or 9.1 to 30.5 meters from the house. Click each area on the image to hear how to stay fire resistant within each zone. You must visit all 3 areas before you can proceed. The immediate zone includes the home and the area of 0 to 5 feet or 0 to 1.5 meters from the furthest attached exterior point of the home. The goal for this zone is to keep it as combustible-free as possible. For your assessment, pay attention to the conditions of the homes, the type of building materials that are used, and how the type and spacing of vegetation may play a role in fire resistance or ignition. Knowing that embers need dead vegetation and debris to thrive, imagine how and where they are likely to accumulate and spread. How are flammable products stored? What building materials are used? Is there a lot of vegetation near the house? What type of mulch, if any, is being used? The intermediate zone is 5 to 30 feet or 1.5 to 9.1 meters from the furthest exterior point of the home. The advantage to this area is that it typically contains hardscape, that is, rocks, gravel, or concrete, that help influence fire behavior. You'll want to look for fuel breaks, such as driveways or fire-resistant patios and decks, as well as assess how the landscape is being maintained. The extended zone is 30 to 100 feet, or 9.1 to 30.5 meters from the furthest exterior point of the home, and sometimes out to 200 feet, or 61 meters, depending on the landscape and slope of the land. The goal for extended zones is to interrupt the fire path. You'll want to assess the extent of debris in this area. Is it heavily wooded with dead trees and plant material? How close are the treetops to the home? Using fire-resistant or fireproof materials within 100 feet or 30 meters of the home prevents ignition-to-ignition fire spread. Fire-resistant or fireproof materials or installations are a strength and protect your home and the people in it. Vulnerabilities are areas where improvements can be made to make fire less likely to ignite. Try to guess whether each image is a strength or vulnerability by dragging it to the correct box. A check mark or X with feedback will indicate whether you have chosen the correct or incorrect answer. Roofs can be highly vulnerable to embers during a wildfire. An untreated wood shake or shingle roof covering is the greatest threat to a home. When able, consider replacing with a Class A roof, such as asphalt shingles, tiles, or metal. While these are fire-resistant asphalt roof tiles, dead leaf and branch accumulation around skylights do not help. In addition, multi-paneled tempered glass can help reduce the risk of fracture or collapsing to a home.
Got that one wrong.
Upgrading vents or adding screens like the ones you see here can help prevent ember intrusions. Make sure vents have a metal screen of 1/8 inch or finer to block embers from entering and igniting the home. Wood lattice railing or fencing of a home's crawl space can carry flames along the sides of the house. In addition, dead vegetation and debris can accumulate beneath the house where lattice fencing is not reinforced with 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter metal mesh screening. It's the little things that can destroy a home if ignored. Hanging baskets can act as an ember catcher and can provide a source of ignition if they are not carefully maintained. Wooden stairs can carry flames directly to the house. Using non-combustible materials such as metal or masonry and ensuring a minimum of 5 feet or 1.5 meters of flashing or fire-resistant siding where stairs attach can add to the protection of the home. Wooden fences can carry flames directly to the house. Using non-combustible fencing where it attaches to the building reduces the opportunity of a burning fence igniting the exterior of the structure. Keep crawl spaces covered with 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter metal mesh screening to protect the underside from dead vegetation and debris accumulation. Notice this crawl space is not screened and contains debris. Using fire-resistant building materials and installations like house skirting is a strength. Skirting prevents debris and embers from being blown under the home and creates a non-flammable space between the ground and the siding. Features such as driveways and walkways can help break up vegetation and stop the spread of small flame surface fires. This photo shows the use of rock along the foundation of the home and up a few feet. This creates a non-combustible area between the ground and wood siding. Keeping vegetation spaced and manicured outside the immediate perimeter of the house provides a fire break where fire is less likely to spread. Wood or straw mulch products close to the home should be replaced with non-combustible options, such as crushed stone or gravel. Typically, fire burns faster uphill and slower downhill, so homes at the top of a slope are more at risk. Hardscaping and careful vegetation maintenance below the home can help slow the burn. Good job! Click the icon to download the How to Prepare Your Home document for additional risk reduction steps related to strengths and vulnerabilities in the home ignition zones. This document is also available in the Resources tab. Now that you had some practice identifying a community's strengths and vulnerabilities to wildfire, you are ready to put that knowledge to work and complete the risk assessment. The assessment consists of 8 primary areas you must complete. You must identify assessment participants, describe your site and the properties within its boundaries, and describe vegetation types, topography, and wind exposure. Once you've described the general area, you will evaluate roofing materials, adequacy of vents and siding and skirting materials. You will also consider attachments, windows, roofs, and gutters. If this sounds like a lot of information, or the area you are describing is large, remember that you are just considering estimates at this point. The remaining observations you will record are conditions within the home ignition zones themselves. You will estimate how vegetation is arranged and maintained, the extent to which there is litter and debris, and the types of structures there are, as well as their locations. Once you have compiled this information, you will use it to inform your findings summary and recommendations. Your goal is to create a community snapshot and identify strengths and vulnerabilities on which your community will direct its focus. So far, you have briefly reviewed how wildfire behavior is impacted by environmental variables and have practiced identifying strengths and vulnerabilities within the home ignition zone. You've just now seen how different sections of the assessment are completed based on observation of these strengths and vulnerabilities. Now it's your turn. Over the next few slides, you will look at images of various houses in a fictional Midwestern community and practice completing a mock assessment. Practice in this tutorial will not be at the level of completion for your own community. It will, however, help you understand the considerations you will need to make and give you familiarity with the process. You will be able to print out the completed mock assessment at the end as a guide for your own assessment. As a reminder, follow along with a copy of the real assessment, as some of the sections you complete may be hard to read on screen. You can do this. When you're ready, click Next to begin. Neighbors must work collaboratively to reduce their shared risk, and each Firewise USA site is required to have a board or committee. Your board will oversee the implementation of the action plan, educational outreach activities, and the annual renewal process. Each board can contain any number of homeowners and other community members, such as your local fire department and state forestry. Drag and drop the participants you would like as board members. You may drag the same title more than once. In a real assessment, you would write their name, title, email, and phone number. In addition to the site name, city, county, and state, you must describe the boundaries surrounding the perimeter of your community. Site description and information typically include location, the size of the area, and the number of properties and residents within its boundaries. You can include other characteristics, such as house type or lot sizes. Drag and drop each site description component to where it should be in the section. Most dwelling units in our fictional community are private single-family homes. Roughly 1/3 of the owners are permanent residents. The rest are seasonal. As mentioned before, the lot sizes are small, from a half an acre to a full acre. There is a public boat landing on the east side of the lake. Using this information, complete the description of properties within the boundaries section by selecting the characteristics and writing in the space provided. Click the icon in the upper right corner to see the characteristics noted for this community. Click Next when you are done. Describing the local area requires an informal study of vegetation, slope, if any, estimating past wind exposure, and summing up wildfire history. If you do not have access to some of this information, you can obtain it from your state forestry agency or local fire department. For our Midwestern community, there are several species of pine trees in the forests surrounding the lake. Other tree types include ash, maple, willow, and beech. The topography is generally flat. Drag and drop each characteristic to where it should be, and select the regularly exposed to winds and unknown options. You are ready to begin the observations section of the risk assessment. This and the next few slides will focus on structures and vegetation within the home ignition zones. Of the 180 homes in this community, most have fire-resistant roofing materials and siding. However, less than half of the homes have non-combustible vents with mesh, and even fewer use skirting material to protect homes' undersides. Click the options that you think best represent these estimates.
We'll get there.
Roughly half of the homes in the community have wooden attachments, and most homes do not have multi-paned windows. Most have roof and gutter debris year-round, but most of the gutters are made of fire-resistant material. Click the options that best represent these estimates. Good job. Roughly half the homes having attachments could mean that the opposite is true. Either 50 to 74% or 25 to 50% have no attachments. Consider these ranges when you conduct your actual assessment. In addition, the description of most homes not having multi-paned windows would most likely mean that less than 25% is a good estimate. Most having roof and gutter debris probably means that less than 25% of homeowners clean them. Lastly, most made of fire-resistant materials could be estimated at over 75% being non-combustible. We've completed this section for you. Let's dig deeper and take a closer look at the zones. Look carefully at the questions in this section. If approximately 50% of homes have combustible-free areas such as stones, gravel, and concrete, what would you see? Select the orange button that best describes what you would see. No, the goal of the immediate zone is to keep it as combustible-free as possible. Rocks, gravel, and concrete are the best combustible-free alternatives for a combustible-free area in place of wood mulch. We've completed this section for you too. Do you remember the goal for making the intermediate zone more fire-resistant? Keeping the goal in mind and reading the bullet points in this section, what might alert you to conclude that only 25 to 50% of the homes have treated vegetation? That's not right. A goal of the intermediate zone is to be aware of how the environment breaks ignition spread. So you'll want to look for a variety of environmental conditions that act as fuel breaks. Driveways, walkways, fire-resistant patios and decks, waterways, and so on. Note that for homes using grass as a driveway, grass that is maintained and well-watered may also act as a fuel break. Most of the lots are in and surrounded by a wooded area, densely populated with trees. Why might you determine that less than 25% of homes have treated vegetation? That's right. A goal of keeping the extended zone clear is to interrupt the fire path. Since it is heavily wooded and only 25% have treated vegetation, you would have looked at the density and volume of vegetation. Part of your action plan for the extended zone will be to clear out vegetation and ensure it is spread out and maintained. Most houses are next to the lake. However, the entire community is surrounded by dense woods that are very overgrown and have dead trees and brush within 200 feet or 61 meters of homes. A community surrounded by dense woods would indicate adjacent woodlands. While you'll need to determine an existing management plan for your community, the more information you can provide about conditions pertaining to your site can help you be aware of other proactive actions you can take. Check the appropriate box in the Common Areas section, then drag and drop the information in the white boxes to their appropriate locations on the form to complete this section. Your summary findings should include the current status of the homes, areas that are already fire resistant or fireproof, areas that need improvement, and information pertaining directly to your observations of the home ignition zones. Special emphasis should be placed on the area closest to the house. Read through the findings, then click Next to consider your recommendations. The final portion of the assessment requires you to use the findings from your observations to determine actions that reduce your community's risk from wildfire. Prioritize your recommendations by first considering the threats in the immediate area around homes, and then address improvements that can be made in the intermediate and extended zones. Also consider costs of the improvements you are recommending, as well as the availability of volunteers. Finally, consider adjacent lands and wooded areas. You will use these recommendations to create your site's action plan. Thinking about the home ignition zones, drag and drop each recommendation into its correct zone. You may move your answers after they've been dropped. You must get all of these correct in order to proceed. You may also click on the icon if you'd like to refresh your memory of where each of the zones are located. Your action plan contains a prioritized list of your recommendations. Action plans also include resident actions and educational opportunities that participants will complete on an annual basis. See if you can match our suggested timeframes for the mock assessment. When you're creating your community's action plan, you'll want to prioritize by home ignition zone and the greatest threat to the homes. Suggestions for your mock action plan will appear here. As each appears, drag it to the year you think is best. You may move your answers after they've been dropped. You must get all of them correct before you can proceed. Excellent work. You're done. You may download your completed mock assessment. You may also click the icon in the lower left to view additional information. A primary objective of this tutorial was for you to learn how to evaluate community strengths and vulnerabilities against wildfire. Additional objectives included giving you the opportunity to see how an assessment is completed, as well as complete a mock version for practice. You have the knowledge you need to take the next steps in completing a risk assessment and becoming a Firewise USA site. Good luck to you on your own community risk assessment. Click Exit when you're ready to close the tutorial.
Thank you, Rob, for your Would you help with that?
Sure.
So with that quick tutorial, it's not quick and it's kind of a little daunting, it seems, but the risk assessments are not that difficult if you conduct them as a community. And my suggestion is to anyone that wants to do their risk assessment on their own, get a bunch of folks together and walk your community and check off the percentages in that risk assessment in the questionnaire. And you'll be able to come back and go through this tutorial again, and it'll make a lot of sense. So now that we've gone through the tutorial, are there questions? I like to just open things up for questions from people, because then we can get through this, and answering questions is always a good way to understand Firewise.
Hey, Luana, could you step through some of the resources that are available to people who are interested in starting a Firewise community here in Placer County?
So right now I'm a great resource for you, but I am transitioning out as of the end of next month. So you'll be able to go to the county website. And Shauna, are you available? I can't remember what the website is called right now.
Yeah, hi Lou, hi everyone. This is Shauna Pratt, Placer County OES. We did create an email that is going to be used for Firewise communities. It's fireready@placer.ca.gov. So Fire Ready is all one word, FIREREADY. We also have a phone number. It is 530-886-FIRE. And so those will be during Lou's transition, and then once we're going forward with the program, those will be the two best communications, and we will be updating the website as well.
Thank you, Shauna. And then one of the other great resources is going to the firewise.org website. That tutorial that you just looked at is on there. There's a lot of information on that website to get you through the Firewise program. Shauna's going to be a great resource. There are other resources out there that are to help you in your community. The Placer Resource Conservation District. If you go to their website, look up Placer Resource Conservation District, and you'll find that. They have ways, they have the chipper program, they have a green waste bin program that they have right now that's very, very helpful. They also have a section in their on their website that's resources to help with fuels reduction in your community. That's another great source is your local fire safe council.
Yes.
The local fire safe councils meet once a month. I believe their schedules are on the county website, and they are a great resource for the Firewise communities, and a great place to collaborate with your local fire safe council.
Thank you. And just in line with that, Luana, one thing I'd like to take the opportunity to promote is that we do have a mentoring program at the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. So we can connect you with someone who has established a Firewise community, and sometimes just as a way to bounce ideas off or get advice, you'll be able to connect with someone who's already done it.
And that's a great resource. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. Hi, my name's Joe, and this is Melanie here. Just a really quick question. Maybe you have a resource for this on the website, but obviously there's a community effort, and so do you give like tips and hints about how to recruit your neighbors, get them involved in this? What do you put on in terms of the limits or the definition of a community?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because we're in a rural area. We're on 7 acres, and most of the properties have a lot of acreage around us. So I'm just trying to figure out how far we expand.
And we don't even know some of our neighbors.
Yeah.
So not that we're antisocial, but
Yeah.
So I hear this quite often from folks, especially that have got larger acreages. So Firewise, the requirement for Firewise for community is no less than 8 homes and no more than 2,500 homes. So there's a large area to work
wow.
in here. My suggestion to folks is not to get too much larger than maybe 40 if you're doing this on your own and you're not in a community that has an HOA or some type of road association or something like that that you can work through. All the homes have to be adjoining, they have to be contiguous. They have to, you have to be able to draw a circle around your community and have all the homes be contiguous. Some of the best ways to reach out is just maybe go knock on doors. I've had folks put up just an easy up on the beginning of a roadway and hand out literature. If there's any kind of community event in your community that you have yearly, I don't know. Sometimes that works. Just getting another couple or another homeowner involved, you'd be surprised how fast it grows. We had a community just last week that we met with, that there was over 30 folks from this community that showed up for the first meeting that they had, and to find out if they wanted to become a Firewise community. Everyone joined in and said yes. So it's just however you think that you can reach out there, reach out, and maybe get your local fire department to come in and do something, have like I said, set up an easy up on a corner and set up a day. You'd be surprised how fast folks will come around once you just start putting out the word.
Maybe hot dogs would help too.
Throw a big block party, throw a potluck. I've been to block parties when we've done Firewise too. So it's one of the great things about Firewise, and I ask this question at a lot of the Firewise communities, is what's one of the best things that you've discovered once you become a Firewise community? And one of the things that always comes to the top is we know our neighbors. And it's just a great program, and it gets you involved with your neighbors because you have a common goal and it's common to your neighborhood. So that's one of the best suggestions that I can make. Visit one of your local fire safe councils. I'm not sure where you live, but visit your fire safe council, find out when they meet, and you might find someone in the same room that's part of your community. There's just a lot of ways like that just to reach out. It's community oriented, it's community focused. That's some of my best suggestions, and I've seen it work a lot.
Okay.
Lou, this is Shauna. I have a question that I've been getting quite a bit lately is there any cost for the program?
Zero out-of-pocket cost for the program. So the only thing that Firewise requires, and this is very, very, very minimal, is 1 hour per year of volunteer time doing some type of Firewise work around your home. That 1 hour equates to, right now, I think it's $29.45 is what a volunteer hour, if you were to look it up, is worth. And so they equate that per home. So if you decide you have 10 homes in your community, they're going to equate that $29.45 to that 10 homes, which comes up to what, $295 or something on that order. And that's what Firewise, they put a dollar value on it, but it's not dollars out of your pocket. It's that 1 hour of volunteer time per year that they equate that to. And that's what they require. And 1 hour can be raking leaves, 1 hour can be trimming trees. It's just 1 hour mowing your lawn. And whoever the chairman or leader of your community, they keep track of that. And there's forms on the Firewise website that they can pass out and help keep track. Some folks keep track of them in Google Docs. There's a lot of different ways of keeping track of that so that on a yearly basis you can turn that in.
Okay. Luana, could you talk about some of the benefits of becoming a Firewise community?
So probably the biggest one that comes to the top is everyone knows their neighbors. In the event of a wildfire, there's a contact list. You can get a hold of your neighbors. That's another great thing. Your community, if you practice your Firewise, if you go up with your Firewise plan and you practice Firewise principles, can literally become, and it may take some time if it's in bad shape when you start, but can literally become its own fuel break within your community. So that's a big plus. One of the other real big things that's coming out right now is the insurance. So insurance programs are they're really looking at Firewise and being in a Firewise community as a huge plus. I know that there's some other things coming out with Firewise that'll be coming out soon that are going to require the same principles as Firewise if you have those principles around your home, then your insurance will be I'm trying to think of the right words. It'll be easier to get insurance.
You want me to, Lou, that? Are you referring to the
Sure.
Safer from Wildfire
Yes,
program?
Yes.
Yes, that's the insurance. Anyone that's interested can check out. There was a webinar done by Insurance Commissioner Laura's office in May, and they are rolling out a program called Safer from Wildfire, where that he has created a regulation that will go into effect this summer that insurance companies will basically be required to give you a discount. The motto is, if you do the work, you get the reward. So, and the basis for the program is exactly what Lou's saying, is basically Firewise community type requirements. It's a 3-step. It's 0 to 5 feet, which is home hardening and the first 5 feet of space in your home, 5 feet to 30 feet, which is your immediate defensible space. And the third component is community. So we will be hearing more about that.
Thank you, Shauna. I appreciate that. My mind kind of went without me for a minute.
No worries.
So there are a lot of benefits. One of the other things is I always suggest that you invite your local fire department in to your community. And if you invite them in as a community, then they know your community. So if a wildfire does happen, they know your strengths, they know your weaknesses, they know what they're dealing with if a wildfire is in your community, and they know the folks. So you have, you know who your firefighters are. How did you get to there?
Okay. Are there any more questions for Luana? No? Okay, as we close, just a couple of things. There's some information in the chat. If you go to that, Shauna has her contact info there. We've also included the Fire Ready information, and there is a link to another document prepared by Luana about preparing how to get a Firewise community started in Placer County. With that, I have one more slide I'd like to share here. And just a little bit about the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. So our contact information is shown on this slide. If you email auburnfiresafecouncil@gmail.com, a request to be put on the mailing list, you'll get information and emails about different events and activities that we'll be sponsoring. So you'll have a schedule of upcoming educational forums and our regular meetings. We also have a Facebook page there at the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. Our regular meetings are held the third Friday of the month at 9 a.m. Starting in June, we're planning on having hybrid meetings. So we will have, as we've been doing the last, since I guess the start of COVID, Zoom meetings, but we'll also be in room 10 of the Auburn City Hall at the corner of Lincoln Way and Highway 49. So certainly encourage anyone who's interested to attend those either by Zoom or in person. And I believe that is everything. So with that, I guess one last thing. If you join the, if you email or care to join the mailing list, we'll be getting the information out on the YouTube link for this video as well. So if you want to review that again, you'll be able to do so. Anyway, with that, we will conclude the meeting. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your long weekend.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
One quick thing.
Oh, yes.
Can I even be heard? I just got on here.
Yes, you can.
Okay. The reason it took me so long is I could not figure out how to get on to the Zoom meeting. I've looked on the phone, and instructions will follow. They never followed, and I see the same thing Facebook on my computer, and only found this by inadvertently going to the other Auburn, Greater Auburn Fire, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult for somebody who hasn't done this before to understand how to get here.
Okay, yeah. Understood. Thank you for the feedback. If you join the mailing list, you'll get an email with a button that says join the meeting, so we can get you connected on there. So I'm not sure exactly what what was put out in terms that didn't include the contact info. So do apologize for that, but at least through the mailing list, you'll definitely get an easy link to join the meetings going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, great. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
A good weekend, everybody.